You'll never see an aluminum front sprocket on a motorcycle, and there's a good reason for that. It's too small, spins too fast, and it can't handle the load. In a nutshell, it will destroy itself. So, if the aluminum can't survive on the front, why are people still using it in the rear? In this video, I'm replacing the chain and the sprockets on my S1K, and I'll show you what's going on and what I chose and why. This bike has over 33,000 kilometers on it, and the chains weren't. The biggest giveaway, the adjusters. They're almost at the end. The rear sprocket, yeah, they're somewhere there, but the front sprocket, you never really know until you take it off and inspect it. Honestly, you can tell how a bike was treated just by looking at the chain and sprockets. According to chain manufacturers, a high-quality 525 chain on a high-power super sport, ridden smoothly and maintained properly, should last around 25 to 30,000 kilometers. Neglect it or ride it aggressively, and you're down to 10 to 15. I could probably push this for another season. That would put me around 38,000 kilometers on the original chain. I'm a good boy. I know what some of you are thinking, that my chain lasted this long because I'm too chicken shit to ride the bike. Not the case. Neither is true. I've got a dedicated track bike, a 248 horsepower S1K on race fuel, and might I add, no riding aids. This part I've been working on goes by a few different names: lock washer, tab washer, or safety washer. It's designed to be replaced every time you remove it. I'm only reusing it so I can finish this video, and I will replace it when I pick up a new one. Comparing these two sprockets side by side, you can see how the original teeth have become narrower and sharper at the tips. The sharpening physically changes the sprocket's pitch. If you run a new chain on these thinned out teeth, the rollers won't see properly in the valleys. That creates excess heat and friction that will stretch out a brand new chain in no time. For more punch, a lot of riders suggest swapping their gearing, dropping a tooth in the front, or adding two to the rear. Some go even further with a -1+2 setup. But unless you're building a dedicated stunt bike or chasing a trophy, stock gearing is the best setup. Manufacturers spend thousands of engineering hours to balance the engine's torque curve, cooling efficiency, and sensor calibration for traction control. For me, since I'm not racing, I'm leaving the gearing stock. I'm going with a lightweight chromoly steel sprocket. Chromoly is a high-strength alloy that's basically the gold standard for high-performance drivetrains. It's used because it has incredible fatigue resistance, which prevents stress cracks that can form on a cheaper steel sprocket under the constant hammering of a 200 horsepower engine. It's the perfect balance. It's hard enough to stop the teeth from sharpening and tough enough to absorb shock without snapping. This allows it to have these lightning holes to save weight while still being 10 times more reliable than an aluminum sprocket. This is the old rear sprocket, and it's made out of high carbon steel, likely a C45 or C49 grade. At a quick glance, there seems to be almost no wear, but the second you place it beside a new one, the difference is obvious. You can see the old teeth are more rounded at the top and noticeably sharper on the edges. The wear pattern is exactly why manufacturers avoid aluminum rear sprockets on high-power street bikes. The only bikes that come from the showroom with an aluminum rear sprocket are specialized numbered models like the Ducati Panigale V4R. Even the BMW S1000RR M package with its carbon fiber wheels still ships with a high-carbon steel sprocket. It is worth noting that some high-performance competition bikes, such as motocross or enduro models, do ship from the factory with aluminum rear sprockets. And the only BMW I'm aware of that ships with an aluminum sprocket is the HP4 Race. That is a dedicated track-only machine that comes with, you guessed it, 0 factory warranty. And this brings me to why manufacturers don't ship street bikes with aluminum sprockets. It is all about liability. Under high loads, an aluminum sprocket could potentially break. And if that happens, there's a high probability the chain will get caught between the wheel and the swing arm, causing it to tangle and lock the rear wheel. This could cause the rider to lose control. And to reduce this liability, most manufacturers use high-strength carbon steel. The reason they use chromoly steel on the front and high-carbon steel in the rear comes down to physics. The front chromoly sprocket only has about 15 to 18 teeth pulling the chain at any given time, which concentrates all that horsepower into a very small area and creates massive shearing forces. Chromoly, because its superior fatigue resistance, prevents the teeth from snapping off under that concentrated pressure. On the other hand, the rear sprocket spread that loads across roughly 40 to 48 teeth at once. Because the force is so widely distributed, you don't need the extra toughness of chromoly. High carbon steel is more than strong enough to handle the torque without cracking. And finally, it comes down to manufacturing and cost. If you made a solid rear sprocket, it will be roughly the same weight as carbon steel, but would cost 3 to 4 times as much to produce. Chromoly is much harder to machine into complex shapes and larger diameters required for a rear sprocket, whereas high carbon steel is more workable, allowing manufacturers to keep the cost down while providing a part that lasts. If you look closely at this original sprocket, it actually has the BMW logo stamped right into the steel. But here's a little insider secret. BMW doesn't actually make their own sprockets. Like most manufacturers, they rely on specialized OEM giants. For BMW, it's widely known in the industry that SJOT, a German manufacturer, is their primary supplier. They build these parts to BMW's exact diamond cut specs, stamped around all on them, and they go straight to the assembly line. My new rear sprocket is from JT Sprockets. I'm sure many of you have never heard of them, but if I mention a name like Vortex, everyone's ears perk up. The truth is, companies like JT and Sunstar are the actual OEM suppliers. They make millions of sprockets each year. They might not have the flashy marketing, but they're the ones producing the chromoly and high-strength carbon steel sprockets that can handle the 200 horsepower load of a modern superbike. I decided to leave the front gearing stock, and the same applies to the rear. The only time I consider changing is if I added significantly more power. At that point, I'd actually drop teeth on the rear to stay in the torque curve longer. You could technically go up a tooth in the front, but there's a few issues. The good: a larger front sprocket reduces the chain's bend angle, which lowers friction, heat, and vibration. The bad: on a bike like this, there simply isn't enough clearance. Going larger risks the chain sawing right through the K-saver, or the swing arm pivot. If you noticed, I'm using a digital caliper to measure the width of the new chain, and then riveting the master link until I match the measurements as closely as possible. If it's too loose, the link will have too much play, which can lead to premature wear on the rivets or even the side plate working itself off. If it's too tight, you'll crush the O-rings and create a kink in the chain, causing uneven wear and vibrations throughout the bike. Been there, done that. It's crucial to adjust the chain slack to the manufacturer's exact tolerances to get the longest life possible out of your new drivetrain. If the chain is too loose, it could jump off the sprocket and potentially bending or cracking it. Not to mention the risk of chewing up the swing arm or, in extreme cases, cracking the engine casing. On the flip side, a chain that is too tight will have a very short lifespan. Beyond wearing out the bearings and sprockets, an over-tightened chain can actually cause the rear suspension to bind. This prevents the shock from moving through its full travel, making the bike unstable and dangerous in the corners. You should always use a torque wrench to tighten any bolt or nut, but if you're stuck without one, you have to get creative. You can't use a degree method here because these distorted thread lock nuts have too much resistance to finger tighten. So here's the trick. Before you take off the old sprocket, draw a straight line from the nuts to the sprocket. Then transfer those exact marks from the old sprocket onto the new one. When you install the nuts, tighten them until these marks line up perfectly with where they were from the previous setup. It's definitely better than just guessing. And that concludes this video, but before I go, I want to answer the question: why did I choose carbon steel rear sprockets over aluminum? Well, it's very simple. I'm cheap. Thanks for watching. Hit the like, share, and subscribe. And remember, always hug your pets. Take care.